Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Moms and Some Labels. Two Moms and Some Labels is a platform for parents and caregivers caring for a child with a disability to come together in a shared space to network, commune, and to just share and gain ideas on how to persevere through challenging times. My name is Brittany, and I am your host for today. And today we have a very important topic that we are going to be discussing. I mean, I hear about this all the time from parents, especially parents that have children with autism. It's just a very talked about topic. And that topic is the potty. So, we are going to dive into everything about toilet training on this episode and answer your burning questions on how to get your child toilet trained and just give you some ideas and things like that to try to help a little bit. But I have a special guest with me, and she has years of experience. She has a business about toilet training. I mean, isn't that awesome? I have never heard of any business about toilet training here. I mean, so I'm just so excited to hear what she has to say. So, Megan, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you and your business?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for having me today, Brittany. I've been really excited to share this information with families because, as you said, I have never seen anyone have a toilet training business either. So that is basically the main reason why I started this. I am from Perth, Western Australia, and this is a really lacking area of support for families in Australia anyway. It sounds like it may be similar in America with you guys. So a little bit about me, I'll backtrack a little bit. So I studied my Bachelor of Psychology, graduated in 2016 at Curtin University here in Perth. While I was studying, I applied for a job at a behavioral therapy company. I worked for them for pretty much full time for the 4 years that I was studying. I then wanted to venture out and started my own company where I worked with a small group of families, supporting them in any area that they needed, but I incorporated more naturalistic teaching styles. I really, really enjoyed that, did that for about 7 years, but what kept coming up was toilet training. So there is little to no support in Australia for families wanting to toilet train their children. And at the time, I was really, really busy, had a full caseload. And I thought, how can I get this information out to more families where it won't cost a fortune? You won't have a 6 month to 1 year waiting list. You can start when you're ready to start, not when the waiting list, you're at the bottom of a waiting list. So I decided to create an online course with everything that I know about toilet training. And I've priced it so that it's accessible to most families. At the time, we didn't have funding in Australia for families with children with disabilities. Now we do, so it's made the course even more accessible. But yes, basically the only options that people have is to sign up to a company that's quite expensive with a long waiting list. They might not have the money, they might not have the time. So I've made an online course to make it nice and easy for parents. I would really love to change the fact that toilet training is so, daunting for families. I love toilet training. I find it so much fun, mainly because it's such a huge achievement when you can get it done. It means you can save lots of money on nappies too. So yeah, that is basically a bit of my background story and why I do toilet training. I really want to help families and let them know that it doesn't have to be so hard if you have the right support.
Yeah. So, with your background in behavioral therapy, when you were working like in a clinic, or like how does that work there when you were studying that in
Yeah, so
Australia?
we actually do home-based therapy. So a lot of children with autism are a lot more comfortable within the home environment. It also means that we could help in a much more effective way. A lot of places are center-based, but that way you only see the child. You don't see the family dynamic. You don't see the environment that the child is in. And the child isn't always so comfortable. So it was home-based therapy, but it was with a clinic, yes.
So was the therapy for potty training or behavior? And you just had a lot of children that they were having, a lot of issues with learning how to, go to the bathroom on their own.
Yeah, it was actually both. But what was happening was the toilet training was kind of put on the back burner because of everything else that was more at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they go hit school age and they're not potty trained, the schooling system here, if you're in a mainstream classroom, you can't the teachers can't legally help with toileting issues unless they go to a special support center, which at the time there weren't many. Now there's a lot more. So it was doing both, but toileting is so extensive and you almost need one-to-one consistent support, which I wasn't able to offer. So that's why I've decided to just specialize in toilet training so that I'm able to help you consistently so that we're able to achieve toilet training together.
Wow. Yeah. And so what exactly is toilet training?
Yes. So toilet training is basically teaching a child. It's a social behavior. So it doesn't come naturally to children. Children don't look at a toilet and go, oh, I'm going to wee and poo in that. Often they're quite scared of it. They are weird looking things. So toilet training is when you want your child to stop using nappies throughout the day and night, and you want them to use the toilet. But you have to teach them to use the toilet.
Okay.
Yes.
And so a lot of the kids that you were working with previously before you, specifically got into toilet training, were they children with disabilities or typical children or a mixture of, all types of children with abilities or disabilities?
It is mainly children with autism.
Okay.
All over the autism spectrum. So I've worked with children from about 18 months of age all the way through to 15 or 16 years old. Last year, I actually toilet trained a 15-year-old boy. So that was really amazing for them. 15 years of changing nappies. I don't even think I can fathom what that's like. And that was amazing for him. He gained his dignity back almost and independence, and he was a whole new man. Honestly, he was just awesome. And so there's no age limit. I can work with any age child, but he wasn't necessarily on the autism spectrum, but he had many diagnoses, more like global developmental delay, things like that. They couldn't quite pinpoint. So I've worked with children with Down syndrome, global developmental delay, just speech delay, high amounts of anxiety, ADHD, anything and everything, basically.
Wow. And so when the parents are bringing their children is your course solely online, or do you do online and like a mixture of both, in person and online, depending on the situation?
Yeah. So basically what I say to families is if you haven't started toilet training at all, purchase my course that basically lets you know where to start, exactly how to implement it. I have free downloads. I've got visual schedules. All the information you could possibly need to toilet train your child is in the course. If you do the course and you implement it with your child, but you're having a few issues or you hit a few brick walls along the way, I also offer online consultations to help you navigate the way through that, because all children with autism are completely different. All children with disabilities are completely different. They're not all the same. So the course is the basic foundation of what you need to know. But obviously, I'm fully aware that along the road, you might hit a brick wall that is not discussed in the course, or that you don't know how to troubleshoot. And that's when you can contact me and I can help.
So with the toilet training course, is it something where you have to take the kids out of school, like they'd have to miss schooling, or is it something that parents usually do like after school? How does that work, since going to the potty is an all day thing? How does
Yes,
that
it is.
work
So,
for the
how I
family?
recommend families do it is you set a chunk of time, and generally the school holidays is the best time to do this. With my course, you can actually toilet train your child within a 2-week period. So, when I have people contact me saying they've been trying 3 years to potty train their child, I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not how it should be. That's not the norm for me anyway. I don't accept that. But it is an intensive toilet training course. So that means that you basically stay home for the full 2-week period. Near the end of the 2-week period, you start to fade out the home toilet only, and you need to generalize and go out into the community. So it's also teaching children, yes, they can use the home toilet, but they also need to know when I go to the shopping center and I need to wee, there's a toilet there and I need to do the same thing. That can be quite tricky for children with autism. So the course is a 2-week period where you stay home. And I recommend doing it in the school holidays, unless you feel like if it's the last week of the semester or the term and the kids are just doing arts and crafts and you want to start a week earlier and they're not missing too much school, then do that. But also, yeah, I guess if they're missing school to potty train, I mean, this is a life skill that they'll learn forever. So schoolwork can always be caught up on, I guess.
Yeah. And so, especially, working with children that have autism, how are they, do you have more are they more receptive to you when you come in and work with them, if you have to work with them in person, or do you see more of, the parents, they need their parents to be the ones to assist them with it and be able to, get through the toilet training process?
Yeah, so I can go in and help. So if you are Perth based, I can come and help. I will only do so in a really specific kind of situation, because I believe that the children are always with their parents. I'm not always there.
Yeah.
So I'm there to empower parents to feel confident and to have the tools that they need to be able to achieve this themselves. A lot of families would love a therapist to come in and just toilet train their child. But what happens is your child is with you all the time, not your therapists. And a lot of children with autism, they can actually do things for their therapists that they won't do for their parents. So it's about empowering the parents and teaching parents how they're able to implement this themselves. And they're the main support network for their child. Like, they're the ones, because it's potty training. It's still private. It's like, and to have lots of therapists coming in and encroach on your privacy is not a nice feeling either. So I really do believe that if parents are able to do this themselves with the right support, that is the best outcome for them and their child.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, because, you have to be with your child 24/7, until however long, I'm sure until they're past 18 years of age, you still might have to have your child living with you. So definitely, being able to implement that and feel comfortable and confident in helping and teaching your child and them learning from you, I think that is the best way to go about, teaching and implementing something for your children, especially those with, autism or any other type of disability. And so I know I had a question about the age thing, because I'm not sure how it is in Australia, but here in America, it's like you have to be 3 years old. When you're 3 years old, you have to be potty trained, or, you can't move on to the next, class, VPK class, the kindergarten class. So is it like that in Australia too? They have to be 3?
Yes. So in Australia, they won't move you on. So we've got kindergarten, pre-primary, year 1, year 2. That's kind of how it goes. Kindergarten is part-time schooling. So they're happy to help you with potty training issues then. But when you hit pre-primary, they expect you to be toilet trained. However, the age for pre-primary, I believe, is the child is aged 4 turning 5. For pre-primary. So for kindergarten, they're about 3. Yeah, obviously with children with autism, they aren't always cognitively where a neurotypical 3-year-old is at. So that I don't really put ages on it. The best thing that I have a checklist on my Instagram account to help families figure out whether their child's ready to actually start potty training. When you put an age on it, that puts so much pressure on yourself. It puts so much pressure on your child, especially if they're not ready. Your child, there is a couple of steps that your child has to be showing for you to know that they're ready to start the toilet training process. There's no point in starting before this because it will just result in a lot of stress, and it will result in probably a lot of negative behaviors that you'll then have to weed out later on, like children becoming very anxious because they're being forced to do something that they're not ready to start doing. That's really what I try and avoid. But yes, generally in Australia, the classic age is like 2.5 to 3 when a lot of families start toilet training. But like I said, please don't look at the age. You have to look at the signs to know if your child is ready. They might be 10 and show the signs. They might be 5 and show the signs. In general, over the last 10 years of me doing this, I would say the ages between 4 and 5 have been like a really good age. This is when the children, their gross motor skills are really good, so they can get on and off the toilet. They can undo buttons and zips and pull their pants down, pull their pants up, all these things that you maybe don't think are related to toilet training. And their cognitive abilities are a lot more advanced. So they're able to understand the concept of going to the toilet and why we need to do it and keeping clean and things like that.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like, I've never even thought about it that way. And I think, that schools and early learning centers should definitely have this checklist and go by that, because it just makes so much sense. Like, if a child is not ready and, not putting an age on it, then it's going to be more difficult. And then, that's when you have the parents and the teachers getting frustrated also, because they're basically trying to like force the child into potty training, and they're not really ready, and they don't have those fine motor skills that they really need to be able to, access the bathroom. And so that's when, like, make sure you put some pants on your child that they can easily pull up and down. They have to put all these guidelines on the clothing that your child needs to wear to school and things like that, so it's easier for them to access the potty. So that makes so much sense for them to be, more developed in those cognitive and fine motor skills to be able to accomplish going to the potty and knowing when they're ready. I mean, I never even thought of it that way. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And so many parents are like, oh, they're 2.5 and they don't want to toilet train. And I'm like, that's okay. It's fine. That there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's just this, societal or school pressure to have your child at a certain stage, at a certain age. And it's like, no, because no child is the same. Every child is completely different. And they're all in a completely different basket. We have to meet the children where they're at for it to be successful. If you're trying to force something that they're not ready for, it's not going to be successful. And from experience, a lot of the time it results in the children being terrified of the toilet and they won't even approach it. So I always say to families, please don't do that. It really is a massive, massive mistake if you try and force your child to do something they're just not ready to do yet, like anyone.
Yeah, man, that is amazing information. And so also too, I know, like, I have heard parents say, like, oh my gosh, my child is pulling off their diaper, or, they don't want to keep a diaper on. So is that a sign that they are ready to go to the bathroom if they are taking
Yes.
off their diaper?
Yes. So I love that sign. That's one of my favorite ones because I'm like, good, they're uncomfortable in a nappy, or I say nappy, maybe diaper
Yeah.
for your audience. But so that is one of the best signs because that means that it's already using the toilet is already naturally reinforcing because they don't have to sit in their own mess. And that mess is making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what they will realize when I go into the toilet, I can just flush it and it's gone and it's not attached to me and it doesn't make me feel all gross and yucky.
Yeah.
So that's a really good sign. Yep.
Oh my gosh, cool. Okay, because I know too, I'm one of those parents that's like, oh, if you're taking off your diaper, that means you're ready to go. And
Yep.
so I have a typical 17-month-old, and he takes his diaper off all the time. Like as soon as he wakes up in the morning and it's like a heavy diaper, he's taking the diaper off. I'm like, and pulling his pants down. I'm like, that means you're ready to go to the bathroom by yourself if
Yeah,
you're doing
exactly.
all
And it
this.
works the other way too. If your child's younger and they're showing these signs, go for it. There's no, yeah, you don't have to wait till 3. It's all about the signs that they're showing. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so, I don't know if there is like a concrete answer about why it's so difficult for parents to have children with disabilities to be able to, toilet train their children faster or at the, global age that um, the early learning centers feel like children should be able to go to the bathroom by. Is there like a reason? Have you seen a lot of with your clients, things that maybe you think are causes of them not wanting to go to the bathroom at by a certain age, or is it just that they're just not ready?
Yeah, I think, look, there's no like one answer, but basically
Mhm.
what I found is obviously from my experience working with children with autism, they struggle with communication. That's one of their biggest difficulties.
Mhm.
So they can't, a lot of them are nonverbal, or they are verbal but they only say certain phrases, or they might be verbal but it's actually echolalia, so there's no real purpose behind the language that they're saying to someone else. To them it feels great, it's a release for them, it's their natural stimulatory behavior that makes them feel better. But for me, it's mainly communication. They can't say when they need to go to the toilet. They can't say if a nappy's uncomfortable. They can't ask why other children are using toilets. A lot of them, anyway. Obviously, every child is different, but I think that communication is one of the biggest hurdles. Another thing that I find as well is that children with autism, they don't seem to be naturally motivated to want to use the toilet. They kind of like, well, why would I use the toilet when I have a nappy and someone changes that for me all the time? It doesn't make sense to them because, like I've mentioned before, using a toilet is a total social behavior. It's something that society has implemented for hygiene reasons and things like that. It's not a natural intrinsic thing for a person to look at a toilet and go, oh, I must use that. So I find that the motivation about going to the toilet is not there. They often like going into toilets because they echo and the scream that they do sounds really cool in the toilet, or they like to flush the toilet 100 times because it looks really cool, or they like to put interesting things into a toilet bowl, which I'm pretty sure all children do. So they're not actually in there because they are motivated to do their wheeze or poos in the toilet. And another big thing is like the sensory side to the toilet. A lot of children, toilets are loud and echoey. They have hand dryers, which are extremely loud, that go on at unpredicted times, that they don't know when someone finishes the toilet, they wash their hands and then they use the hand dryer. That has been a big thing for a lot of my clients, is actually the noise level in a toilet is
Mhm.
really difficult for them to adjust to. So, and then they develop fears around the toilet as well. So they often, you see them gripping onto the toilet seat like they're going to fall down into
Yeah.
this tunnel and they're just going to, disappear into the unknown. So these sorts of things I find are a lot more common in children with autism or developmental delay or Down syndrome than what it is in neurotypical children. So I think those are the biggest things. And that's why I always say to parents of a child with a disability, any disability, get advice and support first before you try, because it will make your life 10 times easier, and it will make it a lot easier for your child as well, because they're looking through toileting through a totally different lens to what
Yeah.
we are. And then the other thing that I find as well is I get a lot of feedback from daycare centers and things like that that say, Oh, well, all the children just learn to potty train because they just copy their friends. So they're going into the toilet and showing interest because their friends are in the toilet, and they just copy and they're just able to do it. Children with autism don't always have that ability to watch what somebody else is doing and then repeat it in the same way. Like I said, a lot of them do like the toilet, but for the wrong reasons, not for toileting reasons. Yeah. So that's, yeah, all of those, so communication, motivation around the toilet, the fear, the sensory sides, there's so many aspects to take into consideration.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to agree with you on all those things. And so, what are some like reinforcements that parents can use to help their child want to use the bathroom, or even, like tell them they need to go? What are some like positive reinforcements that parents can use, or that you have
Yes.
seen that have worked?
Well, so basically anything that makes your child tick. So I get a lot of parents, and I find this a lot of the time as well. They go to the shop and they buy a toy for a 3-year-old and they think, oh, my child's going to love this toy. They don't actually love that toy. They like the box that the toy came in more, or they like the sensory side to the, like, blankets. They don't like the blanket that much. They like the actual tag on the blanket more than the blanket because the tag is silky and it's soft and they're playing with that. So I always say to parents, and in my course I go through this as well, how to identify what's motivating for your child, that there's different levels of reinforcers. So some things are really, really motivating, generally like screens, like iPad, TV, those sorts of things. And then things that are sort of motivating, like maybe little toys, or cause and effect toys are always really good for children with autism. When I do this happens. They love that. But I always say, find what motivates your child. And you can even incorporate, a lot of children with autism tend to have an obsession. So if your child loves trains, decorate your toilet with trains. Get your child's favorite, train and stick it on the wall. Make them want to be in that room. Make the toilet fun. What I always say to parents is, you've got to think, your child's going from the TV or their toy room playing with their favorite things to going to an empty, boring toilet with absolutely nothing exciting in it for them, unless of course they love the actual toilet themselves. But a lot of the time you've got to make it motivating for them and use what specifically motivates your child. So I had one boy, he loved all the ferries that we have in Perth. So we have a ferry that goes from North Perth to South Perth, and they all have different names. So we made a magazine of all the Perth ferries with all the different names and how they were made. And that magazine he could only access when he was practicing his toilet sitting times. Wow. So I don't care how weird and wonderful it has to be. If they love Sesame Street, stick all the Sesame Street characters all over the toilet, on the back of the door. Anything that you have to do to make that space really motivating and comfortable for them to be in. You want them to feel happy and relaxed, because if they're not happy and relaxed, they are not going to eliminate.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. Yeah. Like parents, we have to get really creative for our children, especially those with disabilities. So yeah, that's a really great idea to do that. And, talking about relaxing, getting them to relax, and because if they're not relaxed, they're not going to be able to eliminate. Do you know, like, why a lot of kids, they are scared to go, number 2 on the potty? I feel like, it comes easily, the going, pee in the potty, but when it comes to going, stool in the potty, that's where I hear a lot of parents having more difficulty.
Yes, exactly. So it's a really strange phenomenon. It's very common. I actually recently helped a boy with that exact issue. He was neurotypical, but he was going to school and he had so much anxiety around doing his number 2s in the toilet that he was holding it in. And I mean, he could hold this in for days and eat a normal amount. He was holding it in and holding it in and holding it in. And after going to every specialist under the sun, again, waiting really long wait lists, no one was able to help them. There was nothing wrong in terms of his ability to eliminate. He was just so anxious about it that he just held it in. I'm actually going to be making a separate course for this section, because what I find is not all children do this. So some children do the original toilet training course that I've got, and they automatically just do the poos as well. Other children don't, and they will just do wees. And if that is if that is a case for anyone, then I will be making another course. I've actually made up a whole protocol myself. What I find is that obviously wee is a liquid and poo is a solid. So when you poo, it feels completely different to when you wee. Pooing involves cramping, it's uncomfortable. A lot of the time the toilet sitting position isn't correct. I do have a post on that if any of your viewers are struggling with that at the moment. Make sure that the seating position is appropriate for your child, so that it makes it a lot easier for them to get it out. The other thing as well is that I find a lot of potty training courses don't teach the child to sit on the toilet long enough. They all just want to go in, do their wee, run out. But your child needs to be accustomed to actually sitting on the toilet long enough, because to do a poo, it takes a lot longer than it does to do a wee. So your motivation has to be a lot higher. The toileting position is very, very important, whereas with wees, it's not that important. Boys can either sit or stand if they want to, whatever. But with the pooing, they have to sit. I recommend that the knees are higher than the hips. This makes the bowel elimination a lot easier for them, things like that. And in terms of dealing with anxiety, you really have to talk about what poo is. Children don't know.
Yeah.
They don't understand the digestive system. They don't know that when I eat the food, my body absorbs all the nutrients from the food that it needs, and then the wastage my body has to throw out. And it's basically the trash, and you have to help your body get rid of the trash. And often making this connection, you just see the light bulb go off for a lot of the kids, because they're like, oh, that's what it is. Now I get it. Whereas if you're just saying, do a poo, do a poo, do a poo, they don't know how. They don't know how it feels. You have to link it to their body and what is happening. Like if your tummy's feeling crampy or it's sore, that means you might be ready to do a poo. Okay, what is a poo? Why do I need to poo? Things like that.
Wow. Yeah, that is, oh man, this is a lot of good information, and just like putting all the pieces together from what you have said, like it makes so much sense on, why there are some difficulties, and these difficulties that parents may be experiencing, how there are solutions to it. And there can be solutions to get them to be able to go to the potty. And like how you have the 15-year-old, you may not have to be, going this long with your child not being able to go to the toilet on their own. If you just take the time and think about all these things that come along with going to the toilet, and, their cognitive, developmental needs also that take a part in them being able to understand, what they need. It's like, you have a tool bag, and these are all the tools that they need to be able to go to the bathroom. And it just makes so much sense. Okay. So, your courses are online. And so how long are the sessions usually, or is it just dependent upon, each child and, where they are in the toilet training process as far as how long their sessions would take?
Yep. So my course that I have online at the moment, it's actually only roughly about an hour or an hour and a half to complete. I recommend that the parents do the course. At the end of each section, I've put in a little quiz just to make sure that you've understood the main parts of that section. And then I recommend that the parents in the course, I recommend that they set aside a 2-week period where you fully commit. And that's very, very important. You cancel all kinds of outdoor appointments, any therapies or anything like that. If your therapies come to the home environment, involve them. If you have support workers, involve them. Everybody has to be on the same page, and it has to be consistent in that 2-week block. It's very intensive. But it's really black and white, and it's the same thing every day, and it's repetition, and it allows the child to grasp what is going on, rather than doing 3 hours on a Saturday and then maybe 2 hours on a Wednesday and then maybe 4 hours the next Sunday. You're doing it every single day, every hour, until your child is able to self-initiate. I guess what makes my course a little bit different is that I teach you how to teach your child to take themselves. So that means you aren't prompting them constantly. You aren't asking them every hour if they need to go or not. They know when they need to go by the end of the course. So I get a lot of children that are prompt bound. So parents say to me, you know, they'll wee when I ask them to wee, but if I forget, then they'll have an accident.
Mm-hmm.
That's not toilet trained to me. They know that they can use the toilet, but they don't know when, and they can't do it on their own. They're relying on somebody else to help them to go. And in general, most children are toilet trained within the 2-week period. But again, like we've mentioned before, pooing can be a separate issue. So that might take a little bit longer for the family to achieve. If you are having difficulties, though, I do offer either 30-minute or 1-hour consultation options, and we can just work through it as we go. You tell me what the issues are, I problem solve them, and I give you the tools, to fix it.
Nice. And so I know you were saying when we started that you guys were starting to receive like funding there in Australia. So does that mean that the funding will help parents be able to take your courses, or is it still that they have to pay out of pocket, or does the funding help pay like a portion of, taking your courses? How does that process work as far as, paying for it?
Yeah, so in Australia, families can use their NDIS funding, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme funding, if toilet training is a goal for them. So we have to set goals for the funding and what they want the funding to achieve for every child. And if toilet training is a goal, or you have a self-managed fund, which basically means you're given a fund and you can choose what services you'd like to access, I can do an invoice up for families, and that's how or everyone that's bought my course so far has paid through their funds. And if you're in another country and you also have funds, I can send you an invoice or speak to the funding body and make sure that you are able to access it. Because like I said, I really want families to have access to this information in a fast and easy way. It really shouldn't be something that you have to wait 6 months to do, because your child could have been toilet trained in 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I'll really try and make it work for anyone, anywhere. I'm not sure what your funding looks like for families in America.
So like here in America, I'm going to say in Florida, because it could be different in other states, but here in Florida they have they have like a waiver program where funds can be used for life skill needs. And then they also, for kids that are like in the school system, they have like scholarships that the students get a set amount of funding, and the funding can be used to go to different therapies or, buy different things that the families may need for the child. So I wonder if that would be something that, they would be able to use their scholarship to pay for this course, because it is a life skill. It is, a part of their, daily learning fundamental skills also. And, if you would be able to accept that, that would be something to look into for us here in Florida.
So exactly. If it, like you said, it's a fundamental life skill. I don't see why it wouldn't be. So that's something I'm definitely happy to look further into.
Yeah, because we have like a scholarship list, and it will tell us like things that are approved, or vendors that are approved to be able to be used. So I definitely will look into that for the parents out there that are interested in taking Megan's course. And then also, can you let everyone know, where they can find your information on how to register, your social media, how they can get in contact with you.
Yes, of course. So I have Instagram and Facebook. I also have a website, which is www.toilettrainingspecialist.com.au. Through my website, you'll see that there's booking links. You can purchase the course straight away through my website as well. The course is on the Teachable platform. So it'll link you to the Teachable page, and then you can purchase it from there. You've got different payment plan options. If you don't want to purchase it directly and you need an invoice first, just message me. Literally, that's quite simple. So you can message me on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. You can also book through my Facebook page. So if you want to book an online consultation, there's the 30-minute option or the 1-hour option in the Book Now button on my Facebook page, which is just Toilet Training Specialist.
Cool. And so for us, here in the US, you have to remember that whatever time zone that you're in, make sure that you correlate that with the time zone there in Australia. So, if you message her and she doesn't respond, then she's probably sleeping
Yes.
or maybe, working. So, just give it some time, for her to respond, and just make sure that you correlate the time zones when you're reaching out to Megan, the toilet training specialist. And I don't think that, because I asked some parents, what were some questions that they had, and I think that we really covered everything. I mean, this was some very good information. It was very useful, and it makes so much sense. And really the light bulb goes off in my head, now that you said all of these things with the toilet training. So I hope, for the parents that, that light bulb has went off and you're like, whoa. And, it has given you some insights, some ideas on maybe how to assist you in your potty training process if you're going through that now, and knowing that you have this great resource here to be able to assist you along the way, and you don't have to be alone going through this and being stressed out or anything like that, because there is a way to be able to help yourself and your child be able to conquer toilet training. So, Megan, thank you so much for coming on this episode today. Two Moms and Some Labels. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. And make sure that you reach out to Megan, Toilet Training Specialist, on Instagram and Facebook for your toilet training needs. I hope this episode was very informative for you. And thank you once again for tuning in. We will catch you next time on our next episode of Two Moms and Some Labels. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.